Since the early 2000s, Korea has undergone economic restructuring, leading to a steady decline in the share of the self-employed among total employment. From 2015 onward, the number of self-employed aged 60 and above rose sharply, slowing the downward trend in the overall self-employment ratio. The number of elderly self-employed is expected to continue rising. Many elderly self-employed workers stay in business longer, and over the next decade, the second baby boomer generation will retire and move into self-employment. The problem is that many elderly self-employed end up in low-barrier, vulnerable sectors. They spend less time preparing their businesses than younger groups, and their sales are lower as a result. Moreover, newly self-employed workers in their 60s face a significantly higher cumulative debt ratio after starting their businesses compared to other age groups. When these elderly self-employed are forced to close their businesses, most end up working in temporary or daily wage jobs rather than in regular employment. In the end, the surge in elderly self-employed workers could become a serious risk, threatening both financial stability and economic growth. To analyze the motivations behind elderly workers choosing self-employment, we categorize them into 4 groups: the livelihood type with low pensions and high work intensity, the high-income seeking type with high pensions and high work intensity, the leisure-oriented with high pensions and low work intensity, and the vulnerable type with low pensions and low work intensity. Among elderly workers who re-enter the labor market as self-employed, the livelihood type accounted for the largest share of 46%. This group was concentrated in vulnerable sectors such as transportation and storage, and accommodation and food services, and tended to retire earlier on average compared to other types. For the livelihood type, continued employability was found to be the most important factor when choosing a job, as they sought to compensate for insufficient retirement preparation. In other words, most elderly workers who became self-employed after retirement did so based on the expectation that they could work longer in self-employment than in wage employment. Ultimately, it is essential to create an environment where elderly workers can remain in stable wage employment for longer. To this end, strengthening post-retirement reemployment programs in tandem with wage system reforms could be considered. Scenario analysis shows that if elderly workers remain in regular employment after the statutory retirement age, their income is about 60% of pre-retirement earnings at ages 60 to 64, and about 40% at ages 65 to 69, which is roughly comparable to self-employment income. Starting a business costs a lot up front, and income can be unstable. Elderly workers are likely to prefer regular wage employment if continued employment in such positions is guaranteed. Another option is to scale up service industries, where many older self-employed work to create more wage jobs. Strengthening the matching between elderly workers and local SMEs struggling with labor shortages could also encourage a shift toward regular employment. In cases where elderly retirees enter self-employment either by voluntary choice or due to unavoidable circumstances, support should be strengthened to help them prepare businesses related to their pre-retirement occupations. At the same time, consulting programs should be expanded to prevent excessive competition in vulnerable sectors, and financial as well as tax support is needed to ensure stable operations for the self-employed.